Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Falling Water. So quite a bit of things went down in this episode that we're going to have to break down bit by bit. Like, first of all, let's talk about Taka's side of things. I didn't expect things to kind of play out the way they did with Taka and Emily. Like, at first, I kind of had a feeling like the way he was pushing her so hard, I was like, whoa, this is like kind of, And then, like, the moment we made sense, I was like, wow, go invading her dreams like that. Oh, I was like, wow. I mean, to be fair, it makes sense because he did talk about, like, I mean, the fact is, Tom got into people's dreams, and it's like, well, why not Taka even put on board by doing the same thing? Nevertheless, but going as far as he did, that's crazy, to the point he's showing her all the murders. It's like, look at what your dad did. This is what your dad did. And showing that to the point she sleptwalked and almost died if it wasn't for Alex. She could have gotten seriously hurt, or at most she could have easily died because of that. And Taka did that. Now, he didn't do it intentionally, but he was so filled with rage and everything that his power just kind of manifested like that. Now, this is the first time something like that has happened. Like, the only other person we've been able to see do something like that is Tom. So that begs the question, could any dreamer do it? Or is it just because it's Tom's specialty? And does that mean it's potentially Taka's specialty that he can do something like that? Because I feel like this has been the first season to really get to see, like, Taka's little distinction. Because we saw a little bit of what, we've known what Tess can do being a tracker. And we saw what Burton can do a little bit this season. But like I said, I always feel like we don't know exactly what it is that's Taka's specialty. And there's this. Now, immediately, I'm going to go ahead and throw out this out there. I feel like that's probably how this whole situation is going to end. Taka's probably going to use his ability on Tom to get him to, like, to end up, like, killing himself or something. Like, that's where my mind goes at, because he has enough motive to. I mean, currently at the time, like, Taka's like, no, I'm not going to. We are cops. We can't just kill him. Because even Alex is like, no, we need to kill him. But then you have, like, it's kind of interesting because Alex was like, no, you almost killed that little girl. But Taka's all about, like, no, we need to do whatever we can. Yes, she's fine, whatever. It all worked out at the end, but we're this much closer to getting Tom. But Alex was like, I'm not willing to get Tom to go to this such length. But now it's like, when it comes to Tom himself, it's like, oh, we need to put him down. But then you have Taka being like, no, we can just arrest him. We don't, so it's just interesting how it flipped like that. I can understand why Alex is like that too, because it's like, well, for one, Emily's an innocent bystander, and that she is just a little girl not knowing the full scope of everything that's going down. And then, so obviously she's an innocent victim in all of this, but obviously, like, she wants to take Tom down, because no matter what, it's what he did. He tried to get Christy to kill her and also made her hurt herself. So it's like, that's where all her rage is focused at, to the point, like, Taka's rage is so fixated on taking Tom down that he's willing to cross a line like that. He's even throwing it out there, being like, well, the fact of the matter is, in a situation like this, cops was still, like, showing you scenes from the murder, but the fact of the matter is, she's still a kid. She's still fairly young, so it's still very morbid to have shown her what she did. Because I feel like it's even more powerful, because in dreams, like, I feel like there's an even heavier psychological level with the whole dream situation. And I feel like because of the way dreams work in this series, it makes it even more real, and it feel like it hits you even harder in your core than just a regular picture would. At least that's my opinion about it. So I'm curious to see whether what I was saying about Taka using his powers like that. It's just the fact is they introduced the fact is that Taka could do that. I mean, to be fair, it just, it's also set up for the fact is, well, Taka is going so far just because he wants to take Tom down. So they're kind of showing you that he's willing to do whatever it takes. But so I don't, it might be set up for that, or it could be potentially that, like, because for right now, Tom got arrested and everything, but they've only got him on the charges of, like, oh, he broke the, like, restraining order that was against him because he met up with Emily. But, obviously that's not going to hold, but, it's like, oh, he won't be able to do anything because he's in a jail cell. It's like, I mean, he's still a dreamer. So, I mean, he could end up affecting the other people around him, not let you put him in solitary confinement. But even in that situation, it's like, how do you prove that he's a danger to anyone anyway? Because it's like, with everything that goes down, it's like, he could hurt the people around him just to make a point. So I mean, that's something I feel like we might have to think about and kind of see if something like that happens in the next episode or not. But I think what might have also pulled Taka back was also the fact that he talked to Burton. He told Burton everything he did, and it's like, Burton's like, I understand what happened to you, but the fact of the matter is, using your anger like this, like, it's not going to bring your mom back. It's not going to fix the situation with Sabine, but for Taka, it's like at the very least, it will prevent him from hurting anyone else, you know? Because if we don't nail him now, he's going to get away and he's going to kill again. We know that. So I don't know. It's just an interesting development. Like I said, it's just interesting that they've showed Taka being able to use abilities like that. So we'll have to wait and see, like, what really comes about it. What's also interesting too, since I was bringing up Alex, is the fact that she ends up telling Christy about what happened. She's like, you know that case I was working on? Yep. The dreams you're talking about you had, they were real because this dude can get inside dreams. Christy's like, really? And then it's like, Alex is like, don't worry, we're going to nail him. So this might even be set up for the fact is that we already see how Alex feels too. So this might be set up for Alex crossing that line. Whereas Taka might not be willing to. Alex might do it herself, even though she's a cop and everything. Once again, I'm still also super suspicious because the captain, their boss, keeps bringing it up. And like Alex said, like, yes, we're working the case, boss, so we're doing our cases. I said, yes, that could just be him being a good boss. But at the same time, I just feel like there's more to that. Like he could be part of this whole conspiracy. Like there's connections in all sorts of places. Why not at the police station, stuff like that. And also what that could be potential setup for later on. It could just be like they're setting up the boss because when one of them crosses the line, in particular, I think it's going to be Alex, and I think it's going to be a real life, like crossing a line, not just in the dream world. You know, it really depends, but maybe the boss is going to be there to kind of jump on Alex and, you know, try to arrest her and everything and charge her for killing Tom or something, even though the evidence says he's not the bad guy in this situation. Because that's the thing, I don't know how you prove any of this, because no matter what happens, it's like all this happened in dreams. And even if you bring up the Taylor Bennett situation, which is the whole thing, is like, well, obviously she'd give him up just so she could get away with charges, but it's like, how would you prove that? So not unless there's some recordings or something. And like, how would you prove that? I mean, I guess with her connections, maybe she could bring the right people in and be like, oh, he gets inside of people's heads and he manipulates them into doing stuff like that. Maybe lie and manipulate it, make it seem like more like hypnotism or something. I don't know how you prove something like that, you know? So like I said, a lot of stuff we'll just have to wait and see. What we also learned in this episode is Woody's whole position, like him going back to Taylor, obviously for the group. But what took me by surprise is the fact is he was so open. It's like, oh yeah, actually, I'm working with Bill. Well, in actuality, Bill's working the FBI. They're all working together trying to take you down. Because it was his way to get an in with her, to set everything up, to find out who all these people, who the people are behind this so they can take Taylor down. Even going as far as selling tests. I mean, granted, she's labeled as Dreamer 126, but still, that was kind of part of the plan. And granted, the whole outing Bill and them, as well, like the whole FBI connection, like that, they're working together to take her down. That wasn't a part of the plan. That was Woody kind of improvising on his own. But I did love that element of like, do we trust Woody? Even after everything that's happened, can we really trust Woody? Because it's like, the only thing he's ever cared about is himself. And even Woody's kind of getting all pissy about it. Like, oh, like, I guess I can't earn your trust. It's like, really? You expect him to trust you after everything you've done and been a part of, Woody? You've never shown loyalty to anyone. And you got the audacity to be pissed? Really, dude? Even more so when Tess confronts him and he's like, oh yeah, I know you weren't, Charlotte's not your mom. Because it turns out like Tess was brought there and she was completely brought in by this whole Skyton community. It's like, oh, you were kind of worshipped and everything and loved, and it's like, and kind of Tess is like, that wasn't love, all that happened. Like, granted, he doesn't really, Woody doesn't really know everything that went down, like who her parents were. It's just like, it's kind of interesting because for him, a Skyton was kind of like his only home because his parents kind of dropped him off there. And it's like most people kind of get sent to boarding school. I got sent to Skyton. Is it because they knew what he was capable of or what? Like, whatever it seems like, whatever his relationship was, I mean, it seems like his relationship with his parents was terrible because he was like, yeah, aside from a Skyton, he didn't have anywhere else to go. He doesn't know where he would be or what he'd be if it wasn't for a Skyton, which kind of pushes that more in my mind that has to be a place for training, dreamers or something like that. I mean, it seems like that might be potentially, like, dreamers are connected to it. So, but maybe that's its sole purpose was training or secretly preparing dreamers to be, raised. Because we end up finding out, like, behind this whole situation, the top buyer for Taylor is this dude known as the Doc. But instead of the Doc showing up for the meet, it was actually Jeremy, which now put that in a different perspective because it's like, we have not gotten back to that story in a while. Like, who was it that Jeremy works for? And so it seems like he works for this doctor who, it seems like this doctor's main person he's after is Tess, why specifically, like, he was excited about the whole potential of, like, oh, getting someone else, because Jeremy's like, oh, this person's just as good at Tess. It's like, well, we can always use them, but you can obviously tell it's like more so than anything, okay, get that other person, but also find a way to get Tess and bring her in. It's like, why? And immediately my brain goes, that's got to be Tessa's dad. That's got to be her biological dad. Which kind of begs the question, though, like, why did he leave her in a sky team? Was it kind of what I said? Was it supposed to be like kind of secretly, with Charlotte meant to kind of take her in and kind of gauge her potential as a dreamer? Is that what like her little test and stuff were for? Because like, oh, she ran hers on Sabine, but then Tess came and it's like, oh, she saw the potential Tess has. To be fair, the Doc is a powerful dreamer himself, at least. So maybe, it seems like being a powerful dreamer is kind of a hereditary thing. So maybe that's what it was meant to be, like, oh, unlock Tessa's latent ability. So maybe there's even more power to her than what she has even shown at this point in time. Maybe like what James is able to do comes from her on some level, So I kind of get the feeling like maybe that's what the Skyton's supposed to be about. And maybe Charlotte got a little too attached and didn't want to give her back to the Doc or something like that. And so she's kind of been hidden away all this time. And rather than kind of confronting her himself, he rather like he wanted Tess to kind of come in of her own volition and then kind of explain everything. It seemed like it might be one of those type of deals. But then also, if that's the case, it's like, well, why did Charlotte give up James? Is it because James would have been like what he's ultimately after? Or, because it seems like he's part of this whole like selling and buying dreamers thing. Like, I'm sure it's like, oh, I'm buying dreamers for the purpose of creating a utopia, the whole true purpose that, basically what everyone, in particular the green sneakers, wanted of Topeka last season, kind of something like that. Like, that's why they worship James so much. Like, he'd be the one to kind of bring them all together in Topeka. Like, what if that's kind of what the Doc is wanting, Like I said, like, I don't know, maybe to kind of prevent that from happening, she gave James away, because even if James is with the green sneakers, maybe Charlotte felt like that was still a better place. And if Tess is separated from him, then it won't draw so much attention to Tess. But having James around, being as powerful as he is, it would have drawn too much attention. So maybe it was her way of keeping both of them hidden that way, the best way she could. I don't know. Which doesn't explain why she's up and disappeared now. I guess because maybe the Doc found out about her and like they got to her trying to question her about where Tess is. So I don't know. That's immediately where my brain goes about all of this. So I did appreciate that whole situation with Jeremy. Like when Burton was tailing him, I was like, oh man, I was like, it's kind of interesting. And then like, you see Jeremy duck into a shop and you see Burton kind of continue walking and he throws his phone in the trash can. I was like, that's pretty smart. And he comes back and gets it and got the information he needed. So that was pretty neat. And I also appreciate that effect because I think this is the first time they've shown that effect, even this season, what it looks like when a dreamer exited a dream. Because usually when a dreamer exits a dream, it's them waking up. But in this particular case, they kind of like shimmer out of existence. It's like this clear silhouette image kind of like appears in their stead and they're gone and they wake up. And like, I feel like that hasn't popped up this season. So that was kind of the first time because you see both Tess and the Doc do it. So I thought that was kind of neat. I also like the fact is that it seemed like he froze Jeremy's dream. Like all those people were there in Jeremy's dream and then he froze it. And then it's like, oh, you can't even tell that you've been followed, So, because he had a feeling, because like, because like it all seemed like it goes back to the fact is that, because it seems like the Doc doesn't like Taylor Bennett in particular. I guess it's because of what she does, or maybe there's more to it than that. Because maybe he isn't all about this selling and buying of dreamers. Maybe in this particular case, he's okay with it because it means like, oh, we're bringing them home or saving them. But maybe there's something up with Taylor and specifically that he doesn't like. I don't know. Luckily, Burton woke up before things got too dire with Tess's health because that broken bottle of Jeremy's was about to go towards his face. And it also shows you Jeremy isn't the kind to be trifled with. He isn't just kind of the good-natured person who kind of pretends to be. Like when the time comes, he can get a little rough. It is kind of interesting because the Doc is like, oh, this isn't like you being in trouble. Like you're here on an important mission and it's like all about coming back home. So that's why I mean, like it seems like a type of thing like, oh, we're a family. It seemed like it might be like kind of a Skyton type of situation. So kind of got like that bit of a culty vibe to it, but ultimately we'll have to wait and see. But a lot of interesting things come up about this doctor. For one, it seems like he's supposed to have been dead for like the past 30 years, which ultimately, is it me or does he not look like, because he was supposed to like 44 when he died, like he looks pretty much the same. I feel like he'd be way older in like the past 30 years. So it's like, oh, you faked your death? Or could it be a situation, and this is kind of me pulling from other stuff I've seen, like, and not in this particular show, but other things. Maybe he's actually in a, like, brain alive, but his body's in a coma. Because it's like, maybe, because, you know, in dream world, you can make yourself look whatever you want to. So maybe the doc makes himself look like that, or maybe that is someone else pretending to be the doc, or for whatever purpose. Maybe the doc's like in a coma or something, and his brain is activating like that, like he kind of gives orders through dreams type of thing. Kind of a similar situation to Kumiko. Maybe it's something like that, where she couldn't talk in the real world and, like, you know, move or talk, but in the dream world she could. Maybe it's a similar thing. Just because, like I said, it's just weird that he looks exactly the same. I mean, maybe that's just my imagination, but from the picture we saw about that article that was talking about him, it looked like the same picture as the dude, and it's like, how have you not changed in like 30 years? So that's where my brain immediately goes to about that. So, but that still leaves open the question too, like, even if he is Tessa's dad, who is Tessa's mom too, you know? So that's still another question. I am very curious to see how this all goes going forward, especially like taking Tom's situation, for example, because he basically openly admitted to Emily what he did, but still Emily would, you know, it's still like, that's still her dad no matter what, but she was telling him to run when she saw Taka. But it makes you wonder, like, because Taka was threatening him by being like, oh, I'm going to interview Emily. So the question is, like, what will be Emily's response going forward, you know? So will she still back up her dad or what? And now we also have Tess putting herself out there in the spotlight, because like the only way they're going to draw the doctor out is by using her as bait, because she's what he really wants for whatever reason. So I don't know. I kind of get the feeling like this season's not going to have a happy ending, because apparently next week is the season finale, which took me 100% by surprise. Like, I figured there might be like only 10 episodes this season, but it still kind of snuck up on me. I had to look it up before I recorded this, but it's like, yeah, this was episode 9. I was like, holy crap, because I thought there's at least like a few episodes, like 2 or like 3 episodes left before I just lost track of what episode we were on. So that's crazy that we're already there at the season finale. I made sure not to look at anything. I'm very curious to see how everything plays out, because I still feel like there's so much in this season that hasn't really gotten an answer to, that I feel like we're not going to. But also, like, going back to I think I brought this up earlier too, like in an earlier episode, maybe even brought it up last week, but it's like, is it me or this season went by like super fast? I feel like I think even storytelling wise, I feel like it was faster than season 1. And I brought it up to like the whole aspect of like, well, that might just because of just, you know, season 1 was a lot of setup and figuring stuff out. And now this is just kind of building upon it. So it goes by a lot quicker. I don't know. It's just, that's how it all felt like to me. Like I said, even storyline purposes, but ultimately we'll see. I'm very excited to see what goes down in the season finale. Like I was getting to, like, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff we don't get answered, but I'm curious to see what we do get answered, because like it's too late at this point in time to be kind of answering a lot of stuff that's kind of left a little open-ended. So ultimately we'll see where everything lands in the season finale. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.